Okay, so full disclosure on this, this is basically just going to be a really pissed off commentary on this idiot's self-proclaimed ultimate do-it-yourself arcade machine guide. This Linus Techtips pile of shit doesn't like games. He is a fraud, a fake, a phony, an opportunist. He's basically just, you know, an actor pretending that he cares about this stuff when he doesn't. It's all just about money to him. He's a fucking piece of shit. But I had to go through this because so many people are going to watch this and actually think he knows what he's talking about. It's just infuriating. I mean, that's a real danger with emulation and game preservation and all this. Nobody knows what they're talking about. It's just nothing but ignorance. It's nothing but a bunch of retards pretending that they know what they're talking about. It's just so frustrating, and I'm sure you can hear it in the way I'm speaking. I'm just so sick of these morons misrepresenting things and giving people bad information. So I'm just going to go through this step by step and point out how full of shit this guy is about virtually everything he says.
We would build the arcade box around. This is Linus Techtips, so we could have easily strapped SLI Titans and an 8K monitor to a piece of plywood and called it a day. But the hardware demands of emulating ancient software are actually very light.
Okay, so this fucking idiot says that the hardware demands for emulating so-called ancient hardware is very light. Yeah, actually, it isn't very light at all. If you want to have a good setup, you basically need a top-of-the-line PC. The thing that's comical is you actually need a more powerful PC to emulate old games properly than you do to play new games. It has higher hardware requirements. Especially if you're using an LCD, you basically need a top-of-the-line GPU to even run the things at 4K so they actually look good with CRT shaders. And if you want to do things like use Groovy MAME or RetroArch's frame delay, you need to have an incredibly fast CPU to use high frame delay settings to minimize input lag as much as possible. He's completely fucking full of shit. Don't believe anyone who says that you don't need a powerful machine to emulate games. If you want to have a pile of shit, you can use a Raspberry Pi. If you want to have a terrible setup, if you want to have an embarrassing setup that I will laugh at and ridicule you for having, then yeah, sure, go ahead. Build a toaster and tell me that you have a good arcade cabinet. But if you actually want to have something respectable, if you want to earn my respect, you're going to have a real PC, a high-end CPU, and if you're using an LCD, you're not only going to have a high-end LCD that has variable refresh, but you're also going to have a high-end GPU capable of pumping out 4K without dropping frames. Fuck you for even daring to say that you don't need a powerful computer to do this, fucking piece of shit.
And besides, silly intro bit aside, we wanted the focus of this video to be on showing how you can get a little more mileage out of your components that are nearing the end of their useful life.
Okay, this is another real pet peeve of mine. Listen to me, you piece of fucking shit. Arcade games are not sloppy seconds. They are not leftovers. They're not shit that you throw old hardware at. They deserve the very best. These games are better than new games that come out. Don't give me your fucking leftovers. Don't give me your hand-me-down hardware. These games deserve the very best. How fucking dare you take some old piece of shit and run these beautiful games and tell me that it's good enough. Show some respect, you goddamn piece of millennial shit.
So it was important to us that every part of our computer was something that would be coming up on replacement age and readily available secondhand. In the end, for a really reasonable price, we were able to put together what would have been a respectable mid-range gaming PC circa 2011.
Of course, he recommends arcade VGA, even though it's completely useless and is pretty much the last thing you want for one of these setups. Fucking piece of shit.
With just one unusual requirement. We wanted a video card with an S-video output because we...
Fucking stupid piece of shit. S-video outputs on video cards are capped at 60 Hertz. You can't change the refresh rate on them. It's one of the worst things possible for one of these setups. You always want to use analog VGA with a CRT so you can take advantage of groovy MAME and actually run games at their native refresh rates. If you use S-video, you're stuck with 640 by 480 interlaced 60 Hertz. It's fucking terrible. Oh, that's awesome, man. I want to play all my games interlaced. It's 640 by 480. Oh, that's fucking great. And think about how terrible this is going to be. You're going to be stuck at one resolution, 640 by 480. You're going to have to upscale the games from their native resolutions to 640 by 480. You're going to have uneven pixels. It's going to look like fucking crap. When anything moves, you're going to see aliasing because of the stretching going on to get it to 640 by 480. What a fucking retard. How dare you? How dare you say this shit? Never use S-video on one of these setups. Never, ever use S-video. At the very least, you're going to want a VGA to component transcoder, like the Audio Authority VGA to component transcoder, and then that way you can use the VGA on your card to output to the CRT at the actual resolutions and refresh rates. Oh my god, these fucking idiots.
We are totally gonna rock a CRT in our finished build for authenticity. Once all of the hardware was in place, we were ready to set up our front end, the program that wraps everything together in order to use MAME, the go-to but notoriously command line only arcade emulator that's been around.
Yeah, actually, MAME isn't a command line only emulator, you fucking idiot. It's had a UI for like 6 years now. If you just run MAME without any command line arguments, you'll see its UI. And in the past like couple of years or so, it actually has that official UI that you can use as a launcher. It isn't command line only, you fucking idiot. And he just made this video. If he just made this video, why is he pointing to MAME 185 when 187 is already out and it's not going to be that long before 188 is out? What a fucking idiot.
Since the mid-90s. The front end allows us to peruse our vast collection of legally obtained software and then run it in the emulator. Our first pick was RetroArch, a front end that handles a...
Okay, so let me see if I can follow this. He talks about MAME and he's saying that he should use MAME, and then he says that he wants to use RetroArch as a front end. What the fuck is this idiot talking about? RetroArch isn't really a front end. It's a collection of emulator cores. What kind of idiot would launch MAME from RetroArch? It doesn't even make sense. If you run MAME's RetroArch core, you can't even play games at their native refresh rates. Even if you have a G-Sync or FreeSync variable refresh monitor or a CRT, you can't even run games at their native refresh rates through RetroArch's MAME core. What the fuck is this idiot talking about? And who is this stupid asshole that they have here doing this shit? I mean, this guy looks like enough of a nerd to know what's going on. It's an absolute crime that this idiot looks like this and is this dumb. I mean, Jesus, man, talk about losing out on the end of the gene pool. He looks like that and he doesn't know what's going on either.
Number of different emulators and has an infamously innovative menu design. While it took a little internet archaeology to assemble all the files we needed, we were actually able to get it up and running, just not quite to our satisfaction. Without endless tinkering, it messed with MAME's control layouts too much to try to conform them to its own, and a lot of our legally obtained software couldn't be detected. So we...
Okay, so what do controls have to do with ROMs being correct? What the fuck is this idiot talking about? Of course, what this moron was trying to say was that he was using some ancient RetroArch MAME core with versions of MAME ROMs that probably didn't match it because he probably got the latest MAME ROMs or something, or he got really old MAME ROMs and used like a newer core. But of course, this idiot is so ignorant and has no idea of what's going on. He thinks that controls have anything to do with ROMs being detected properly. Jesus.
Had a conundrum on our hands. We wanted to stick with open source software, but most of the purpose-built arcade front ends that met our standards, well, they're proprietary. So we dug deeper into the depths of the internet.
Okay, here's a little clue, you idiot. Proprietary and open source are not mutually exclusive, okay? I mean, I can make a proprietary implementation of something and open source it. I guess what he's trying to say is that he wanted to use a front end, you know, that was open source as opposed to ones that don't have the source code available. Even though this guy's such a fucking idiot, he can't even launch MAME, so why is he worried about having access to source code? Giving this guy access to source code is like giving a chimpanzee access to, you know, the keys to launch the nukes. Give me a fucking break!
And discovered a relatively new front end called Attract Mode. With a healthy community making skins and plugins, Attract Mode gave us the perfect storm of form and function.
Okay, I'll give him this one. You know, Attract Mode is okay. I mean, you know, it does have issues if you actually want like the best possible setup in the world. But no, it's a good front end. That's okay. This is the one point where I'll say that he isn't completely and utterly objectively wrong. But it gets worse.
Even supports scripting, which will be important later on in our project. Well, that's all fine and good, but at this point, all you got, Linus, is a geriatric PC running emulation software. That's a far cry from the full-on arcade experience that I was expecting. I mean, look at this thing. So yeah, you're right. We needed joysticks, buttons, light guns, and a big, beautiful monitor to show it off on. So I tasked my staff with scouring Craigslist and eBay for some previously loved accessories that we could dust off and put to use again. We were able to find multiple sources for everything we needed. This was actually the smoothest experience we've ever had buying guns off Craigslist. When it came to buttons and joysticks though, we found the secondary market to be basically non-existent.
Okay, you fucking idiot. Joysticks, really nice joysticks, the best ones you can buy are like 15 to 20 bucks each, okay? Oh my god, $20 for quality. How dare we spend that? Who the fuck is gonna buy used joysticks? Are you kidding me? Do you really want to bring that into your home and touch that disgusting foul shit when you can buy joysticks new? Oh my god, it's like these guys are going out of their way to piss me off. Are you trying to piss me off? Because you are going to regret it.
You can order one of the pre-built arcade decks that are out there, but we really wanted to customize our own. So we did. After some research, we reached out to Andy over at Ultimark in the UK, which is one of the better known arcade part suppliers for enthusiasts, and after a
Okay, so this idiot made the argument that he was going to use the CRT for authenticity, so he's interested in authenticity. And then he proceeds to buy some shitty knockoff joysticks that aren't even the ones that they actually used in the arcades. How fucking stupid is this guy? I cannot wrap my head around how fucking stupid this guy is. Stop trying to piss me off, you asshole. This is what you want to do if you want an authentic setup. You're going to go Japanese or you're going to go European/American. If you go European/American, you're going to get some IO Euro sticks. Those are the actual joysticks that you would find in the real arcades. That's what Midway put in Mortal Kombat cabinets. That's what Capcom put in domestic Street Fighter cabinets. If you want to go authentic Japanese style, you're going to buy some Sanwa joysticks. Okay, that's it. It's that simple. Those are the best joysticks for either thing. Not this magic stick plus bullshit that isn't even in real arcades. These are knockoff, pretender, fake joysticks. Oh man, you better stop pissing me off.
Couple minutes of browsing their website found exactly what we wanted. RGB.
Okay, you want authentic. How many arcade cabinets did you play in the 90s? Well, okay, first of all, let's just pretend that this millennial piece of shit was even in an arcade in the 80s or 90s. He wasn't, of course, because he's a fucking fraud. But let's just pretend that he was. How many arcade cabinets did you see with illuminated buttons and joysticks? Yeah, zero, because they weren't flamboyant, questionable limp wrist arcade cabinets. You know, they actually had dignity. They were solid. They weren't blinking lights. They didn't look like a gay pride parade, okay? They looked dignified. You want just solid, reliable Sanwa joysticks or IO Euro sticks. Not this cheap, gimmicky bullshit. Not RGB, not illuminated. Dignified. Yeah, dignified.
Yes! So we asked for 30 of their classic RGB buttons with 7 Ultralux Chrome buttons for special functions, and yup, that's right, they even have RGB sticks too. So the 2 servo sticks we went with have interchangeable handles, and with some clever software, they can automatically change from 8-way to 4-way, which is great.
Oh yeah, because this guy was definitely in the arcades playing vertical 80s games that used 4-way joysticks. This piece of shit wasn't even born when those games were around, and he's actually pretending as if he cares about any of those games. What a fucking farce.
When you're switching between your completely legitimate copy of Pac-Mister to something like Street Conflict. But what about games that use analog controls? Ha! Well, that's where the UltraStick 360 comes in. It uses a Hall effect stick game, light guns that we bought, expecting to be immediately putting zombies back in the ground, and that...
Okay, so here's the dirty little secret about light guns. They all fucking suck. Light guns, games, and emulation just basically don't mix. It's a horrible, shitty situation where a lot of the actual, arcade components that need to be emulated for them, aren't emulated in a lot of games, and it just doesn't work that well. It is, it's a trap door. It's a red herring. Don't follow that. Don't bother with it. It sucks. It just doesn't. It's not there with emulation. Like basically, you can only really get good results if you're just playing, games with joysticks and so on. The light gun shit is not there. The steering wheel stuff is also largely not there. Like force feedback and stuff, just, it isn't emulated for most hardware. It's not a good experience. It's terrible. And even though I'm sure, it makes for a nice little video clip, for this, flamboyant psychopath, it's actually terrible for human beings who want a good experience.
That's where we hit a major setback. Who could have guessed? While the GunCon 2s that we obtained were technically functional, the drivers they require are ancient. And in order to install them successfully, we would have had to use composite video. Not good enough for us from a retro purist standpoint. And the other set we picked up was a used pair of Act Labs USB light guns. But we ended up running into another problem with them. They were designed specifically out to Ultimark, hey, it's us again, with our system, and why that is here. So these ones we got locally work, and there we managed to procure a Toshiba Pure Flat CRT out of a Namco machine that takes both retro RGB and VGA. That's important because this thing can take signals that range from the chunky dots that Pack Gentleman eats all the way up to the super fresh sprites in Street Conflict 3 and display them as they were originally intended. Okay then, so we have our hardware together, we have all the software set up, now we just need something to put it all into. Those are valid options for sure. We wanted to make the final product as cool as possible to show you guys just how him to let us use one of his Ultimate Arcade 2 cabinet kit, full panel kit, and the issue with high-end CRTs no longer in production, some parts of the experience are gonna get harder and harder.
Yeah, I love how his voice is constantly cracking. What is this guy's balls even dropped? What a fucking joke. And look, here's the thing. There is no shortage of CRTs at all. Craigslist is lousy with them. You can get Sony and Toshiba TVs that have component inputs on them from wherever you want. It's easy to get one. It's a joke, and there's still a lot of tubes out there where you can do tube swaps with like a universal chassis. It really isn't that hard if you want to go the CRT route. Although I do really find it annoying that he didn't even point out that variable refresh, LCDs are actually a really good option for this. But of course, that would require him having half a fucking clue, which he doesn't.
Harder to recreate as time goes on, even if you did want to go all out. But we're really glad that we took on this project.
Look at that fucking shitty marquee. That is the most embarrassing pile of shit I have ever seen. See, this is what's so funny. If you look at old arcades, you know what really makes a marquee good? There's some artwork on them that's really eye-grabbing. It isn't all just text. There's an eye-grabbing image that actually draws you to it. These idiots don't get it on any level. They just don't understand. They, basically, from start to finish, they did everything wrong. Every single thing that they could have done wrong, they did wrong. And this is pretty much what happens with most of these things. These people don't know what they're doing. They're in way over their head. They don't actually, take the time to figure anything out. They cobble some garbage together, and then they go and misinform hundreds of thousands of people, and they actually think that this is the way to do things. It is so infuriating. I mean, I don't know what the solution to this is. I mean, I don't have enough hours in the day to go around correcting these people, but it is so fucking frustrating. I'm just so sick of people disrespecting the art that I love, just shitting on the chest of the art that I love. Do not treat this stuff with such disrespect, okay? I never want to see a hand-me-down PC used for one of these setups again. I never want to see a Raspberry Pi used for this stuff again. Show these games some respect, okay? I mean, think about the heritage of these things. Arcades represent the very best of gaming, the most high-end gaming. Think about it. I mean, in the 90s, Sega arcade games used military-grade fucking hardware, okay? It was shit that you couldn't afford in a home environment. That is what arcades represent. It deserves the very best. This is what arcades mean, not cheap, shitty, hand-me-down garbage. Jesus.
With a home arcade box, you can play your favorite games with your friends, just like you might have as a kid, way back in the 80s, 90s, or...
See, nobody who actually cared about games would do something like that. Anybody who was a real gamer would not fuck with someone else's controls like that. That is exactly what I'm talking about. See, this really gets down to what it is. These people don't respect gaming. They don't respect games. They don't appreciate games. They don't understand, what it means. For them, it's just shit, It's just, oh, who cares? I'm just, flailing my arms around and randomly pushing buttons on other people's controls. Arcade cabinets and arcade games are for people that want precise control down to the fucking frame, okay? They want to count the frames that the games are putting out and have control over every minute thing that they possibly can control. That is what arcade gaming is, when you care that much about every single input and every single frame. It isn't this sloppy bullshit, this stupid, embarrassing millennial shit. They just don't get it. Holy shit!